The coffee shop near the naval base was crowded with young recruits enjoying their weekend liberty. They sat in their fresh uniforms, polished boots gleaming, talking loudly about their recent graduation from basic training. In the corner sat a woman in her 50s, wearing a faded military jacket that had seen better days. The fabric was worn, the sleeves frayed, and on the shoulder was a patch, so old its colors had nearly disappeared. What these young sailors were about to witness would change their understanding of courage forever. And if you've ever dismissed someone because they didn't look the part, this story will stop you in your tracks. Trust me, you need to hear this. Seaman recruit Lisa Martinez nudged her friends, nodding toward the woman. Look at that ancient jacket. Probably bought it at a thrift store to look cool. Some people just can't let go of the past. Her companion, Seaman recruit Brad Collins, laughed. Right, like if you're going to wear military gear, at least make it look presentable. That thing looks like it survived a war. The woman, whose name was Catherine Hayes, sipped her coffee quietly. She had heard the comments but chose to ignore them. At 53, she had learned that some battles weren't worth fighting. The jacket meant everything to her, not because it looked impressive, but because of what it represented. Every frayed thread held a memory. Every faded stain told a story. "Excuse me," Martinez called out, emboldened by her friend's laughter. "Ma'am, just so you know, wearing military gear when you haven't served is actually illegal. It's called stolen valor." Catherine looked up, her green eyes calm but piercing. "I'm aware of what stolen valor is, sailor. So you did serve?" Collins asked skeptically. "Because that jacket looks like it's from the Stone Age." "It's from 1991, Catherine replied simply. The recruits exchanged glances and snickers. Before anyone could respond, the door opened and Admiral James Richardson walked in, his dress whites immaculate, 3 stars gleaming on his collar. The entire coffee shop fell silent as the young sailors scrambled to their feet. Standing at attention, the Admiral's eyes scanned the room and then stopped cold. His gaze locked onto the woman in the corner, specifically onto the faded patch on her shoulder. His face went completely white, he crossed the room in long strides, and what he did next made every person in that coffee shop hold their breath. And right here, everything you thought you knew is about to shatter. That patch, that old faded piece of fabric these sailors mocked, represents something so rare, so extraordinary, that only a handful of people in the entire world have ever earned it. Keep watching, because what happens next will give you chills. Admiral Richardson stood at attention and saluted. "Commander Hayes," his voice cracked with emotion. "It's an honor, ma'am." Catherine stood and returned the salute. "At ease, Admiral." Just Catherine now. The Admiral's hands were trembling. He turned to the stunned recruits. "Do you know what that patch represents? That faded, worn patch you were mocking?" Silence. "That's the patch of the desert. Storm Special Operations Aviation. Unit. Commander Hayes was one of only 7 women selected for covert helicopter operations during the Gulf War. She flew 29 missions deep into Iraqi territory, evacuating wounded soldiers and downed pilots under heavy fire." He paused, his voice growing stronger. "On February 26, 1991, her helicopter was hit by enemy fire during a rescue operation. She was the only crew member who could still fly. With both legs injured, losing blood, she kept that bird in the air for 40 minutes, refusing to land until she got 6 wounded Marines to safety. She passed out from blood loss 3 minutes after landing." Martinez felt her stomach drop. Collins's face had gone pale. "That jacket," the Admiral continued, "is sacred. It's worn because Commander Hayes wore it during every single one of those missions. It was her lucky charm, her armor, her connection to the crew members she saved. 23 men and women are alive today because of the person wearing that ancient jacket." Admiral Richardson's voice softened as he looked at Catherine. "Commander, I was one of those Marines. You pulled me out of a burning vehicle in the middle of a firefight. I was 19 years old, scared out of my mind, and you landed that helicopter in hell itself to get me out. I wouldn't be wearing these stars if you hadn't worn that jacket." Catherine's eyes glistened. "You were doing your job, Admiral." "I was just doing mine?" "No, ma'am. You were being a hero." There's a difference. He turned back to the recruits. Commander Hayes was awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross, 2 Purple Hearts, and the Silver Star. After the war, she trained combat pilots for 15 years before retiring. That jacket isn't old. It's legendary. Martina stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. Ma'am, I'm so sorry. I was ignorant and disrespectful. I have no excuse. Catherine looked at the young woman kindly. You know what I want you to learn today? Never judge someone's story by its cover. This jacket is faded because it's been through fire, literally. It's worn because it's been worked in. It's old because it's survived. Just like the people who wear it. She paused. When you see someone in worn gear, in old uniforms, in clothes that have seen better days, remember that sometimes the most beautiful stories are written on the most weathered pages. Collins spoke up, his voice shaking. Ma'am, how can we make this right? You can't change the past, Catherine said, but you can change how you treat people in the future. Every veteran you meet has a story. Every person in uniform, active or retired, has sacrificed something. Respect isn't just for people with shiny new uniforms and perfect appearances. It's for everyone who answered the call. Admiral Richardson bought Catherine's coffee and spent an hour talking with her about old times and fallen friends. The young recruits sat nearby, listening in silence, learning more in that hour than they had in weeks of training. They learned that courage doesn't fade with time, that heroism isn't about looking impressive, and that the most important battles often leave the deepest scars on both people and their possessions. That afternoon, Martina started a tradition in her unit. Every sailor was required to speak with at least one retired veteran each month, to listen to their stories, to learn their names, and to understand that service doesn't end when the uniform comes off. Catherine Hayes still wears that jacket. She wears it not for recognition, but as a reminder that some things are worth holding on to, that history lives in objects and memories, and that being worn doesn't mean being worthless. It means being tested, being proven, being real. If this story touched something in you, if it made you think twice about judging people by their appearance, share it with someone who needs this reminder. We live in a world obsessed with the new, the shiny, the perfect. But real value often comes wrapped in worn packages, carried by weathered hands and told through faded patches. Hit subscribe if you believe respect should be universal, if you believe every veteran deserves honor regardless of how they look, and if you want more stories that remind us to see the person behind the appearance. The next time you see someone in old military gear, remember Commander Catherine Hayes, remember that faded patch, and remember that the most extraordinary stories often hide in the most ordinary places. Choose respect. Choose curiosity. Choose to listen before you judge. Every single time,